I grew up listening to test matches on radio at Lord's and Oval and these grounds.
Suddenly you were there.
They were stuff of legends, of these myths. I couldn't understand why a guy would leave a tour for any reason. I could never figure that one out. Gave Saurav and me a chance, and the rest is history. You never look back. I think that the time away from one-day cricket made me firstly realize how badly I wanted to play it, how badly I wanted to be with the Indian team all the time. I wanted to be the captain I thought I wanted to be. You just knew that Tendulkar was going to be the number 4, so there was no option there. You look back at 2003 as a thing that we got beaten by a better side. I mean, we lost only.
There's no shame in that?
There's no shame in that. There was no shame in losing to that Australian team. No one expected us to do as well as we did.
There's a reason we are calling this program Cricket Legends. It's because the people we are talking to on this program have, by the sheer dint of the runs they've made or the wickets they've taken or the longevity at the very highest level, earned the right to be called that. Some revel in being a legend, some a little embarrassed about being called legends. I suspect the gentleman sitting next to me is not the one who will puff his chest out and say, I am a cricket legend. But you are, Rahul.
Well, look, I don't like to puff my chest out and say that, but look, when you sit back at the end of a career and you look back at your career, there's a certain sense of satisfaction at what you've done and I guess what you've achieved, and more than anything, that the fact that you've tried to get the best out of yourself. It's been a great journey. I've loved it, loved every moment of it, and there's obviously there's been some ups and highs, and there's been some disappointments as well. But there's also been, a nice satisfaction that this was a dream for me. It was something I loved doing.
That's about as far as you'll go anyway, having known you over the years.
And you know that you were able to do it for so many years and then play for India. So it's a nice feeling.
The other thing about Rahul Dravid, when we first saw him play, and I think I first saw him 94 when he was playing for India A, playing a lot of domestic cricket, then 96, was you so Bangalore. When I say so Bangalore, it means one, education was important. A lot of cricketers from Bangalore had an education. And two, the Bangalore boys were sort of good boys. If you didn't get a signal, you were standing in the bus and reading your school books. That if your percentage dropped below a certain percentage, you wouldn't be allowed to play cricket.
Yeah, I don't think there was a number to it, but the general feeling, the general, I guess, an unwritten understanding or the rule really was that you had to ensure that you got marks, and the teachers had to be relatively happy with you that you were putting in effort. So the PTA meetings were traumatic for me because what I didn't want was my parents to go to one of these meetings and the teachers to say that Rahul's not paying attention or he's not very interested in studies, and that would have been the end of the cricket. So more than anything, I wasn't really worried about other than the fact that I wanted to keep playing cricket and just I was sort of growing up the ranks as well. So I really loved playing it and loved being part of Karnataka junior teams and, representing Karnataka at that level. How different was it, the preparation to batting at number 3 for India? Always prepared in both cases. The chemistry was harder, I think.
Chemistry is simple.
Yeah, for you people like you, Asha, the geeks.
It's simple. The balances, the periodic table. Bowling is different every day.
Don't stress me out now. I went through all of that and I mugged all of that when I needed to. But yeah, so I'm glad. A lot of people say that
you're done with chemistry early in life.
I'm glad I'm done with studies early in life.
No, you remain a good student. You're still a good student.
Yeah, of things that I love. No, I think it was nice fun studying as well, and especially in school and college as well. I tended to. I got a lot of help from my teachers and friends, and I think you can't help but recognize the efforts that they made, because, like I said earlier, my parents, came from the middle class background where education was very, very important, and if your teachers and your school principal or your friends didn't support you, then my parents didn't put me in St. Joseph's Boys High School to become a cricketer. The fact that I was in the school and they had a school team and I played for the school team was a consequence of the fact that they wanted me to go to a school like that so that I could, get a good education.
The one thing you knew was there was a nice tradition building up there. Because just before you had the Vishwanaths, the Prasannas, the Chandrasekhars, the Brijesh Patel, Sudhakar Rao. There's a great tradition of playing for India. So to that extent, it was almost set up for you, isn't it? You were following in footsteps. You didn't have to chart your own course like, say, a couple there from Chandigarh had to. So there's a big advantage of growing up in Bangalore.
There was, I mean, and the stories that you heard growing up. I mean,
You like stories. You talk about that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I like history. It's one of the subjects I really enjoyed. I love history, and I like listening to stories about former players, and that's you would have a lot of that when you were going around junior cricket. A lot of your coaches or managers in those days would have actually played in the Ranji Trophy with the likes of J.R. Vishwanath.
Which was the hero?
Vishwanath Chandrasekhar. Yeah, I think for me growing up in that era, Sunil Gavaskar was a huge hero of my father. So I grew up with hearing a lot about Gavaskar and his feats, and my father taking me to watch him. J.R. Vishwanath was another big hero of my father. So my father would take me to Ranji Trophy games, in the early days when he had the time to watch, J.R. Vishwanath play. So Gavaskar and Vishwanath as batsmen, and then Kapil Dev, the 10-year-old watching Kapil Dev lift the Prudential World Cup in 1983 was one of those defining moments.
One of the reasons you want to talk to great players about their formative years is to understand the player they became. And so when Rahul Dravid went to England in 96 for the first time, it must have been huge. It was the start of a love affair that started in 96, went all the way up to 2011. It helped you as well that your first World Cup experience was also England 99.
It did. I always, for some reason, just loved going to England, loved playing in England, and maybe it was the fact that I did well there as well. So it's sometimes a chicken and egg situation as well. So you like a place that you do well in, and maybe you do well in a place that you like. So it's hard to say which came first. But I mean, just being on a World Cup, being in the Indian team in '96 was an unbelievable feeling. I mean, I grew up listening to test matches on radio at Lords and Oval and these grounds.
Suddenly you were there.
They were stuff of legends of these myths. That these were as it's like you heard about these things. You've heard about the fact that you get a chance to walk down Lords, and Don Bradman has walked down those same steps 70, 80 years before you. So I think a lot of these things you sort of grew up as a kid wanting to do and just hearing about. So it's a great thrill.
It was a strange tour that the captain couldn't score a run, one of the lead batsmen went home. So suddenly from this very nice Karnataka dressing room, you've come into this turbulent Indian dressing room. Was that almost an eye-opener?
I didn't see the turbulence. I was a young kid, I was like stars in my eyes. I was just excited about everything. I mean, and especially when you're young and you're playing your first tours or a few tours, you don't understand, the dynamics and the small, tensions that happen, people playing for their careers, the stresses. I mean, you're just loving everything. You're just enjoying every moment of what's happening. So, I couldn't understand why a guy would leave a tour for any reason. I could never figure that one out. But, obviously Sidhu has its own reasons. And that gave,
It gave you and Saurav a chance.
Yeah, it gave Saurav and me a chance, and the rest is history. You never look back. So that you need a bit of luck. You need a bit of luck in your career, and I think when you look back on things like that, you see fate does play a part. It just plays that part, and you need those breaks. And
you still got to take the breaks.
You got to have the ability.
You still have the ability to take the breaks.
Ability to take the breaks. Yeah.
The reason this 99 World Cup comes back in is because you went through a very turbulent period in limited overs cricket before that. I mean, you told the world you can play test match cricket. You'd go out to play limited overs cricket and it looked like there are 40 fielders in.
At times.
And breaking through that and being the leading scorer at the 99 World Cup, that was some transition in 2 years.
Look, I mean, I look back at those numbers now and look back at the stats. They don't look very pretty. I mean, that's the reality of it, when I did get dropped. But it was a different era and a different generation. I know when people talk about like 75 strike rate now, I mean, they will laugh at you. But that's what most people other than the Tendulkars were scoring at, a little bit here and there. I think that the time away from one-day cricket made me firstly realize how badly I wanted to play it, how badly I wanted to be with the Indian team all the time, and that I needed to work, I needed to improve. My one-day game was not good enough, and go back to the nets and work on certain areas, learn how to rotate the strike really well, learn to play a few clutch shots, get myself out of pressure with some big hits.
Did it almost help you that there were difficult wickets there? Because on flat wickets, everybody would have got runs. Difficult wickets allowed you to show that you were a better player.
Yeah, and the ball in the 99 World Cup, they used the Duke's cricket ball that swung quite a bit. It wasn't the most easiest batting conditions in that 99 World Cup. Look at some of the scores there, and it isn't in England. It isn't. I mean, sometimes wickets can be really flat there as well, but they do a bit, and it's a bit of a challenge, to play in those conditions. So it was nice. I think it just, gave my game. And which is why I guess a lot of times I tended to do well overseas as well.
Were you trying too hard?
Maybe.
Was the studious you almost forcing yourself to get into the importance of doing well there?
At various times in my career, it's not only then, at various times, I think we all have certain personalities and we bring certain strengths and weaknesses into our cricket. And I was an intense person and I sometimes analyze things, but sometimes I did cross the line, and when I probably overanalyzed things and thought too much about the game rather than relaxing. But that's also what brought me success as well. So it was the analytical part of me. It was the fact that I was willing to go back in '98, think about my one-day game, recognize what I needed to be honest with myself, work hard and come back, is partly due to that analytical nature of mine as well.
There are some glamour positions. A lot of people want to go out and take the first ball. Some people say, I'm number 4. Did you think that, as some people said, the best batsman in the team bats at 3, I'm 3?
I was a number 4 for Karnataka, so I grew up in Ranji Trophy cricket batting at number 4 because they wanted me to bat at number 4.
Yeah, but number 4 is shut for 20 years.
Yeah, so when you came into the Indian team, right, you just knew that Tendulkar was going to be the number 4, so there was no option there. And the next position after that was I wanted to bat at number 3 because then I wanted to have enough time to play. I wanted to be someone who set the tone of the game rather than having the tone of the game set for you. I always enjoyed that. So if 4 wasn't there, then I wanted to bat at 3.
Not 5, correct. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it was not.
5 is neither here nor there kind of position.
Honestly, I would have loved to bat anywhere. I mean, and that's the honest truth. I would have batted anywhere. Saurav started off at 3 very well. He got a couple of hundreds in his first couple of games. So I thought 3 was gone. So I thought, maybe I'll bat at 5. But, things didn't pan out like that. And 10, 12 test matches later...
There you were going out at number 3.
I was going out at number 3 and I got 100 at number 3. And then you were, in such a strong batting lineup that we had, you knew that if you wanted to retain your number 3 spot, you had to keep performing at it because there were other guys who could well have easily batted at number 3 and done well.
Good limited overs cricket India played from that phase 2002 to 2004-05 till Dhoni came along. But also the 2003 World Cup, where I thought India played some really good cricket after a slowish start, but India played some really good cricket. Was that, do you look back at 2003 as an opportunity lost or 2003 World Cup as some very good cricket played?
I think you look back at 2003 as a thing that we got beaten by a better side. I mean, we lost only.
There's no shame in that?
There's no shame in that. There was no shame in losing to that Australian team because they were a very good Australian side and we were outclassed by them on both the occasions that we played them in the... We didn't really have our opportunities. It's not like we, you feel that, we were in the game at some stage. I mean, at no stage in, I think both the games we played them early on in the league phase and even in the final, that they just they outplayed us. I mean,
but you still look back at that with satisfaction, that 2003 World Cup?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, you had some good innings yourself.
Yeah,
again.
we played a tournament in South Africa. No one expected us to do as well as we did. We started poorly. Some question marks being raised, and we pulled it back as a team. There were some memorable games. Victories against New Zealand, victories against England, the famous one against Pakistan. So it did help to have Kenya in the semi-finals.
Yes, it did. But what's not very well known is we've seen that Tendulkar innings so often against Pakistan, but when Tendulkar got out, there were 100 runs still to be made.
Yeah,
and you had a young Yuvraj Singh with you.
Against a Pakistani side that bowls pretty well with the old ball. So it was not over. I mean, obviously Tendulkar set a brilliant platform for us and set the game up. But it required, myself and Yuvraj to be there at the end. It was a lovely feeling to be there at the end in Centurion. And I'll never forget that. You reached a phase in the game where you knew you were going to win. It was 10 to go or 10 or 15 runs to go, and you sort of just a lovely evening. As I was batting, I was just sort of. It was nice to soak in, just to lean back and just the satisfaction of there's a lovely Indian crowd waving flags, and it was just a lovely feeling to be a part of a game like that, to be a part of a tournament like that, and to be and play a game like that and to be not out at the end, and I just soaked it in, and I remember telling Yuvraj, let's just soak this in. This is a superb feeling, isn't it? I mean, you'll be in the cusp of a victory against Pakistan in a World Cup.
Did you ever think when you were growing up you'd emerge as a finisher in limited overs cricket? I mean, around that period, 2002 to 4-5, when you were playing your best limited overs cricket, you were actually batting at 5. And around you, Yuvraj played some of his best cricket, Kaif played some of his best cricket, either side of you in the batting order. Did you ever think, I'm going to be a limited overs finisher?
I never... Yeah, I mean,
but you did finish a lot of games.
Because I started off at number 3. And then because I was wicket keeping and other guys came on, Viru came into the side, so I started batting at number 5. And once I started batting at 5, I then sort of tried to and again, that's where the analytical side of me, or the side of me that thought about the game, definitely did help, because then I quickly realized what are the skills needed to bat at number 5, what is the likely bowling you're going to face, what are the situations that you might face, and then practiced it to the best of my ability, worked on it and worked on it. So and I enjoyed doing that, enjoyed batting at the back end sometimes of games, and batting under pressure, batting with a young group of batsmen coming through that you could just see were special and were slightly different from an earlier generation, the Yuvrajes and the Dhonis and even KF at that level. But you were just seeing another sort of one-day cricket slowly changing, and another standard of one-day cricket almost.
Didn't you suddenly emerge in a different avatar one day and score a 50 in some 20 odd balls in limited overs cricket?
Yeah, I was against
15, 22
New
balls.
Zealand. Yeah, I was joking to
Was
someone.
it you?
It was me. But I got more sort of congratulatory text messages that day than I did for a lot of the hundreds I had ground out. People sending me messages, oh, amazing, this, that. And I was saying, wow, man, this one-day cricket's quite nice. You just swing the ball at the back end of a game. You're lucky you connect a few. And you're suddenly a hero, and rather than having to bat the whole day and grind it out and play that, and no, look, I think there's a lot of satisfaction in that as well. My one-day cricket actually does give me a lot of satisfaction when I look back on the fact that I scored over 10,000 runs in over 300 one-day games, and I batted at different positions, and I think that's what helped. The fact that right from a young age, I was batting in different positions made me a lot more adaptable, I think, and it made me. A lot of times I found that the players, when they got stuck to one particular position, it sort of, I don't think it helped bring out the best in games completely. There are certain skills or facets of the games that never really grew, or they never had to work on. And it sort of became, sometimes, for me it was not the case. I had to bat at 3, learn how to play the new ball, then I had to play at 5, come in straight away against spin, rotate the strike, be there at the end, maybe the ability to hit some big shots. So I realized batting at 5, that I would probably be there at the back end of an innings setting a game.
You started practicing that.
So I started practicing big hits and how to play the Yorker and what are the shots that I can hit off a Yorker. I was never going to hit the Yorker like Dhoni would or Yuvraj would, but I had to find a way of doing it in the way I knew best.
The one name that you almost shared a journey with is Saurav Ganguly. You played in age group cricket together, you debuted in the same test match, he was number 3 for a while, you were number 3, you were vice captain for a long time, he was captain. You followed him as captain of India. Did you think, hang on, he's one kind of person, I'm one kind of person, I need to lead my way, but he's had a pretty decent spell as captain of India. Did you see two different personalities? And
I wanted to lead the way I knew how to lead. I had batted the way I knew how to bat. I had not tried to copy anyone as a batsman. I batted with some really great stroke players. It wasn't that I was going to try and copy them as a batsman. So I wanted to be the captain I thought I wanted to be, and captain and lead the way I wanted to be. Sure, there are things that you learn. You learned things from Saurav, watching him, observing him. You learned from Sachin, you learned from Azharuddin. You learn from people. I learned from Anil, captain at Karnataka. I played.
Did you enjoy it, captaincy?
Yeah, I did. It was a huge honor and a thrill and a privilege. I loved. I loved certain parts of it. I loved parts of captaincy. There were some challenges with it, and in some areas where some things I didn't really enjoy as much about captaincy, or I thought might be a little bit different to what I had probably expected.
You're better test match captain. You won series in the West Indies, you won series in England as captain, and then you took the team to the 2007 World Cup. So that tends to throw up sort of different kind of numbers or different kind of experiences.
Yeah, I think the thing with captaincy is that a lot of it you're judged by World Cups. In India, that's the way captaincy is judged, and that's. I can't do anything about it, but that's the reality of it. And and we didn't have a good World Cup in 2007. It was a huge disappointment, probably one of the big disappointments of my career, not doing well in that World Cup. So you get judged, and everything gets clouded around that World Cup, But when I look back on it and look back on that period and period of my captaincy, I know that there were some good things we did even in one-day cricket.
You chased, for example.
We chased. We had some really good success at chasing. We had the courage to play 5 bowlers a lot of times. We tried to do things a bit differently at times because we felt we needed to, not for the sake of doing things differently. If after the 2003 World Cup for a couple of years, we struggled against top quality sides. We struggled to do well against top quality sides even in one-day cricket. We did well till the 2003 World Cup, but our numbers, for the sort of 18 months before I took over captaincy, weren't really great against, top quality, sort of the top 6 sides. So you had to, maybe the team was in transition, maybe some things needed to be shaken up a bit and changed a bit, and you needed to do that. I mean, not all of it worked and not all of it succeeded, but as an overall package, I mean, yeah, there were some good successes and some disappointments as well.
That 2011 England tour, was that some of the best cricket you've played? I mean,
yeah,
you played good cricket for a long time, but 2011,
some
you had to go back and open the batting again.
It was some of the toughest runs I scored. I mean,
did you feel that you were you were no longer the batsman you were? Is that why it was tougher, or was it just the conditions?
It's definitely, I did start feeling that I had to bat differently. I was not, it was not the same like 2002. When I came out and scored all those runs in England, I had to bat differently. And I had to bat, I had to be smarter about my batting. The level of my physical fitness probably, I wasn't the young man that I was in 2002, in 2011. But it gave me a lot of satisfaction because there was a lot of tough runs. Obviously we lost the series and there was a disappointment with that, and it was disappointing to lose the series, especially 4-0, not even be in the contest, which is something I hadn't experienced for a long time. The last sort of year of international cricket was, in a sense, something people like me and Tendulkar hadn't experienced for a decade or so. We were always in, we didn't win every single overseas series that we played, but for the better part of 8 to 10 years, we were always in the contest. Every series we were competing. We were never getting. It was not like this felt like 99 all over again. Losing 3-0 to Australia. It sort of felt like coming back. It's sort of like the wheel had turned a full cycle again, and that was a disappointment. But there was a personal satisfaction in England of scoring those runs, scoring those tough runs against a really good attack. When other people, when others around you were not able to score runs, and I think that sort of meant a lot to me, especially the back end of my career, because I'd had a great run till about 2007, 6-7. I'd had an amazing run for 5, 6, 7 years, and then after that I had a couple of tough years, and then I pulled it back, runs in New Zealand, but no real standout performances, and that's what I enjoyed doing. Enjoyed playing some performances that made an impact to the side.
Do you, when you look back, say, there's so many guys who got a World Cup medal, and I'm so much better than so many guys who got a World Cup medal and I didn't? Is that something that still there?
No, I don't. Definitely, I don't look back with any rancor or regret or anything like that. It's. I mean, it would have been nice to win a World Cup. I mean, obviously, I was, but I had my run. I had 3 chances to do it. It didn't work out. I mean, you tried my best. I mean, you tried your best, and it didn't work out. And there's no. I mean, when you play cricket, there are going to be some great highs, and there are going to be some disappointments. There are other things, guys, I guess, who've got a World Cup medal can say that will look at my career and say, oh, the things he did that we didn't do, and I didn't get a World Cup medal. So I did some other things, and I didn't have a World Cup medal, or we didn't win a World Cup. So, that's fine. That's the way the game goes. Really. I feel it felt like a new beginning to me, a new life.
Not the end.
Not
the end of something.
Not. No, definitely not.
That's interesting.
I mean, there's a sense of sadness of walking away from something that you loved so much, you did so much, something that you were completely single-minded and devoted towards doing. But you always knew it's going to finish sometime. I mean, you know that. It's reality of it. You know that it's going to finish. It's not going to go on forever. It doesn't go on forever for anyone, right? So it's going to finish. And I felt I'd had a. I'd spent so much time in the game, and I'd played it. I tried to be the best player I could be, and I didn't leave a stone unturned. So there's no regret that I didn't try my best, and that's all I think in the end. You can really, I guess, hope for. At least I could hope for.
I'm just looking back at that. Cricket legends. Did Rahul Dravid become the best player he could be? That's a benchmark a lot of people set for themselves. Could I become the best I could be? Rahul, I think you did. So
thanks, Harsh.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I think it's not like you to say it, so I'll say it. He's a cricketing legend.
Thanks, Harsh. Thank you.